Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of The Fad Show. On today's episode, I'm going to be replacing the rear upper control arm bushings or trailing arm bushings on my 100 series Toyota Land Cruiser. These are absolutely destroyed. So there's a couple ways you can go when doing this job. If you really value your time and time is money for you, then you can buy the OEM Toyota rear upper control arm. It's about $150 for the arm with the bushings already pressed in, and then it's pretty much as easy as unbolting the old one and bolting the new one in. F in FAD stands for frugal, so I'm gonna try and do it a little bit cheaper than that. I ended up going with the SuperPro polyurethane bushings. There's a bunch of aftermarket bushings available, rubber or poly. I got a pretty good deal on these. I got a kit that came with both trailing arms, both lower trailing arms, both upper trailing arms, and the panhard bar. And the entire kit was $200 for all that. These are about $65 if you buy just the upper trailing arm bushings. But if you look for the kit that has all of them, that's probably a good way to save some money. I actually removed the lower trailing arms before I was going to do the upper, and they were in pretty good condition. So I'm going to save that job for a rainy day when I'm really bored, trying not to fix what's not broke. These ones, I'll show a close-up, but are completely destroyed. I already did one side. This is a job I hadn't really done before, so I wanted to practice before I filmed it. And the other side was equally as bad as this one. So it's a pretty easy job. All you really need is a 20 millimeter wrench and 24 millimeter socket. And that's pretty much it. Just a hacksaw and vise and hammer to get the old bushing out, which I'm going to show. And with that, let's get to it. All right, so here is the upper trailing arm on the left-hand side. You can see the right-hand one I've already done, which is a little bit more difficult to access with the exhaust. This side looks a little bit easier. I'll show you when I get out so you can see how worn it is, but it's just going to be a 24 and a 22 millimeter. I'm going to have to remove this ABS sensor, it looks like, which I just use a pair of needle nose pliers on the back side to push that out. Also, there's a bracket on this side that's going to keep you from getting the bolt on this side. The other side didn't have this. It looks like a 10 or 12 millimeter, so I'm going to remove that so I can get to the bolt over here. And yeah, I think that's all to say. I'm going to use my paint marker and I'll mark this front bottom so I put it back in the same way it comes out. Not sure if it matters, but well, it probably does matter because this ABS bracket. So that's pretty much it. So here's this rear ABS sensor bracket. Just put the bolt back in so I don't lose it, but this will give you access to this top. I think this side is the 22, the other side is the 24 back here. All right, so I'm gonna try and remove the back one first. I guess it's been like 2 weeks since I did the other side and I already forgot this is a 20, not a 22. This is indeed a 24 here. All right, so one way to test how worn these are is just to put a screwdriver in them and bend, and there's a ton of flex here. I'll show a video of the other one I took out, and you can just see how cracked they are. How cracked and then how much play there is, which obviously there shouldn't be any, or very minimum. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna drill out as much of the rubber in here as I can. This kind of makes a mess, so make sure you have a shop vac to clean it up afterwards. But I'm just gonna go ahead and drill a bunch of holes around here. And then I'm gonna use a ball joint press to press this out, but you could use probably a C-clamp or just even a hammer because it's not gonna be much strength to it. All right, so here's my setup for pressing out the old bushing. Like I said, you could come up with whatever to do this. This is just using what I have laying around. And obviously be careful, you have to hold this because when the bushing breaks free, then the whole thing's gonna fall to the ground. There's the old center part out. All right, so the next part is just going to be to hacksaw through the bushing metal part. It makes it easier the further through you get. Obviously, you don't want to cut the control arm too much. If you put a small nick in it, it's not going to matter. But yeah, I probably won't show too much of this. It's pretty straightforward and boring. All right, I wish I could tell you this next part was pleasant, but it's not. I'm gonna use my chisel to try and peel back the two sides of the bushing just to give it some room to move, and then use a brass punch to hammer it down through. It's very loud and very destructive and noisy. If you don't like your neighbors, this would be the perfect job to do first thing in the morning.
I'm going to play some peaceful background music to make it seem like this is much more pleasant than it really is.
All right, so now I'm just gonna clean up any burrs in here with some emery cloth. The poly bushings are designed to turn in here, so it just needs to be smooth. Honestly, the hacksaw does way less damage than the chisel does. This one's the worst of any side. I got a little aggressive, I guess, with the chisel. I don't think it really matters. It's kind of outside of where the bushing sits, but I'll just make sure I get it nice and smooth. If you really wanted to go above and beyond, you could probably paint this, but I don't really feel like waiting for that today. All right, so I cleaned these up the best I could with some emery cloth. I'm gonna go through, clean them out. One thing that I learned the first time I did this was it's a good idea to clean up between taking the bushings out and pressing the new ones in, because I kind of left all the rubber bits around and it was just getting stuck to the silicone grease that you use to press in the new bushings. So I went ahead and vacuumed, cleaned everything up the best I could. I'm gonna put on a fresh pair of gloves and then lube up and try and press in these new bushings. I will say the first thing I did this, again, comes down to the time versus money proposition. One side went in probably on the 100th try. It took me probably 30 minutes of trying to press it in before I finally got it in. The other side, I learned absolutely nothing as far as any tricks to do it, and it went in the first try. So I don't know. We'll see how this one goes. Hopefully I don't lose my mind trying to do it, because you are kind of holding the control arm, the bushing, and the press all at the same time. But I'll show that in a second. Get some fresh gloves, get the new kit, and then we'll press in the new bushing. All right, so here's the new kit. Comes with 2 bushings, comes with some insulation grease, and then kind of the inner brace, or whatever you would call this, pivot point. And it comes with the grease to install it. So I've been told the key with poly bushings, this is actually my first go at poly bushings, is the more grease you use, the less chance you have at getting a squeak later. So I'm gonna go overboard in every instance as far as releasing grease on here. right, so I'm just using a seal press. Putting the control arm in here, placing the seal press, and yeah, like I said, last time one went in on the first try, the other one took 100 tries, to the point where I almost gave up. So if you watch the SuperPro video of how to install these, they say it will start to cock, but it will straighten itself. And in my experience, very rarely does it straighten itself.
If you recently commented on my channel saying that I show all the successes and failures of working on cars, well, here it is in all its glory today, trying to press these bushings in.
All right, so after much effort, they finally got the bushings in, and now I'm just gonna press in the center metal pieces, whatever they're called, which is much easier. I was trying to make sure they're even on both sides. Here's everything back together. As far as torque specs go, I just did good and tight. The poly bushing works in a completely different way than the factory bushing, as far as the poly bushing is designed to turn, whereas the factory bushing, the torque spec is to set the preload on the rubber bushing. So I just did good and tight. I forget the name now, SuperPro or whatever, they didn't give you any torque specs, so I think good and tight will work. So now I have poly upper trailing arm bushings and poly sway bar end links. Eventually I'll get to doing the lower and pan hard bar, but like I said, they're not necessary at this moment, so I'll just wait till it's really necessary to do it. As you can see, it's not exactly the easiest part to install. Hey guys, so that's a wrap on another episode of The Fad Show. Definitely a tedious job, not super difficult. It is pretty labor intensive to get it done. So I'll leave it up to you which way you would go as far as doing the pressing in your own or going with the OEM Toyota ones. Hindsight being 2020, I might have done the Toyota ones, but I got the SuperPro, so I'm going to continue and I'll install them in the lower trailing arms and pan hard bar eventually down the road. When I get really bored, but I think I'm going to have to be really bored for that one, or if I notice that they're starting to accelerate their degradation. So as always, hope you guys like this video. Please stay tuned for next time. Like and subscribe if you're so kind. See you guys next time. Thank you. Bye.